All right, we're a minute in, so I want to take the time and say thank you to everybody for joining us here today on a wonderful Wednesday, wherever you may be in the world. Taking some time out to talk to us today about smarter edge solutions for the distributed enterprise. I want to say again, welcome and thank you for joining us. I'm Mike O'Neill, Director of Solutions Architects with Scale Computing, and today I am joined by Jason Kupasek, CEO, and Simon Gamble, President and co-founder of Mako Networks. Today, we're going to explore the evolution of edge computing, why it's more critical than ever for distributed enterprises, and what it takes to build smarter, more resilient infrastructure. Whether you're managing a handful of locations or thousands of sites across the country or across the globe, edge is the battleground where reliability, scalability, and security truly matter. Now, at Scale Computing and Mako Networks, our teams are focused on solutions that simplify infrastructure deployment, enhance the security, and reduce the total cost of ownership. So those IT teams can shift from managing complexity to driving the business innovation where it should be. Now, please feel free through these minutes you spend with us today to submit questions through the little bars of your interface and add those, and we'll address those towards the end as time allows. Now, Jason, Simon, anything you want to add before we get started?
I just want to echo our thanks for everybody taking time out of their day to join us, and look forward to presenting a bit later on.
Yep, just thanks everyone. Appreciate your time and attention. Looking forward to sharing some information about distributed edge with you.
All right, with that then, let's explore what this approach is going to do for us and how we can redefine what's possible for these distributed enterprises. Now, let's begin with the reality on the ground. Most edge sites operate in very challenging and difficult environments. Tiny back offices, noisy, dusty areas, sometimes with no HVAC or reliable power sources. There's no on-site IT, yet demands are rising. More devices, more apps, more data, more stuff. Now, add in compliance pressures, changing regulations, and the rising cost of downtime, and the picture becomes very, very clear. Today's edge is under stress. Every truck roll to fix a problem at the edge burns time and money, and these locations, adding many locations, I should say, adds to those inefficiencies. So edge needs to be built for scale, simplicity, and resilience. And most of the legacy systems just aren't ready or equipped for that. Now, what is driving the change in this distributed IT? As we see it, there are three big drivers pushing organizations that need to modernize their edge infrastructure. Now, first is a fairly obvious one. It is the explosion of apps and the data that comes from those new apps. Think about what's running at your typical locations today. You have the new AI-powered analytics and machine learning applications that are quickly becoming the new norm. You have your point of sale applications. You have your video surveillance applications, digital signage, those are all commonplace. Now add to that the myriad IoT sensors that are out there monitoring everything from temperatures to the foot traffic inside and out of those locations. All of these things generate huge amounts of data that must be processed, stored, and sometimes acted on instantly. Legacy systems struggle with this scale and speed sometimes. And when you rely solely on the cloud, there are other factors that come into play. Latency, bandwidth, those all can be problematic with the cloud. Some workloads simply have to stay local for compliance and performance needs to keep them close to where the actual action happens. Workloads needing low latency or high bandwidth often underperform in a public cloud scenario. Now, on-prem and these edge setups that we're talking about can fill this gap very easily. Public clouds usually only offer you the 4 nines of uptime. Traditional data centers, of course, offer those 5 nines that everybody wants, those critical 24/7, 365 environments where they are needed. So how do you bridge that gap? Now, a second major driver is cloud fatigue. It has its place, we all agree with that, but it's not always the right fit for edge computing. The egress fees, latency, the compliance hurdles, all these things add up, making it very challenging to maintain and even afford in some cases. Over 75% of IT reported wasting 20% or more of that cloud spend. Many exceed 40% of that number. That's just crazy. Now, predictable budgeting is almost impossible with all these variable costs and fees. And that's why IDC is reporting that 80% of enterprises are already repatriating some workloads back from the public cloud. So you remember when the cloud was the buzz, everybody went to the cloud. Well, here we come. People moving back because of these needs. And within a year, 42% have already moved more than half of their workloads back on-prem just in the last 12 months. So a hybrid approach is definitely emerging, yet again, where local edge compute complements the cloud and improves control and reduces costs. That shift is already happening today. Now, the last point here is the operational complexities that are involved in supporting hundreds or thousands of sites that might have inconsistent configurations, no centralized visibility, and all of that is a recipe for inefficiency, if not disaster. When you have hundreds or thousands of locations, you need technology like the cloud, but the power and manageability of the on-premise solution. Now, this is the new modern edge. Put simply, yesterday's architecture can't keep up with today's edge demands. So getting creative with these solutions is very, very critical to what we're doing today. And to scale successfully, you need cloud-like simplicity with that on-premise reliability. That's what the modern edge is promising. Now let's talk a little bit about why this platform is critical to where we're moving as this edge world continues to migrate in that direction. Now, to meet today's challenges, edge infrastructure needs to be smarter. Integrating compute, storage, and virtualization in a single, highly available system is a best case scenario. Now, this isn't just about surviving failures, it's about scaling effortlessly, reducing management overhead, and supporting legacy systems like containers, next-gen apps, DevOps, all with minimal intervention. Now, why is this more important? Many, many reasons, but because the cloud can't always keep up. Latency, bandwidth, and resilience, like we just talked about, those challenges make cloud-only architecture risky for mission-critical real-time operations at the edge. Retail, quick-serve restaurants, C-store environments, they all need to run legacy and AI side by side. A true edge platform can run VMs, containers, and those next-gen apps in a single footprint without requiring a rip and replace methodology. Now, because complexity kills innovation, consolidating on a standardized platform eliminates the sprawl of those hardware vendors and replaces it with a centralized orchestration and simplified lifecycle management plan. Now, you can't afford to send expensive IT resources everywhere. There's another reason. Zero-touch provisioning, centralized updates, proactive alerting. These things allow the lean IT teams to manage thousands of locations, reducing that field work and additional expense. Downtime costs are more than just money. That is so true. Edge platforms provide the built-in high availability, self-healing infrastructure in most cases, and consistent uptime. This keeps the customer experience smooth and the revenue flowing in the door where we need it. So no more locked doors, oops, something went wrong, or signs indicating we're down, come back later. In these new edge platforms, that's a thing of the past. Compliance and security can't be an afterthought. Integrated role-based access, PCI readiness, and real-time monitoring harden every location against risk. This is all without adding overhead. Now, data is only valuable when you can act on it instantly. That's another huge reason. With local compute, intelligent monitoring, and edge platform brings insight and action as close as possible to where those decisions happen. And these decisions are becoming even more important with the ongoing shift to the capable machine learning applications. So how do we unify legacy, AI, containers, and everything that's coming in the future? Well, most edge environments have a mix of old and new legacy systems aren't going away tomorrow. But that doesn't mean that we can't bring AI and containers to the party today. Many are already doing it. A good edge platform can run it all. VMs for the legacy applications, virtual appliances, all those things, yesterday's solutions require multiple point solutions, but you can run it all in one platform, or you can just risk falling behind. Now, these things do include containers for the modern applications and the DevOps side of the world. They also include the integrated support for AI workloads, the future of innovation. And this stalls when AI lives in the cloud and legacy lives in a closet because those two don't work together. Edge platforms collapse that distance and align the innovation. In other words, an all-in-one unified, highly available platform that simplifies deployment and management. So why juggle multiple architectures when a modern edge platform is what delivers the virtual machines, containers, AI capabilities, and the future in a single, highly available and manageable stack? The infrastructure and application monitoring are a big piece of this puzzle as well. Managing thousands of edge sites does not scale without monitoring and orchestration capabilities. Centralized dashboards, every node, every host, every virtual machine, every cycle. Monitor the health, the performance, resource usage across the clusters with that surgical precision you need. Leverage the predictive diagnostics to alert you before the issues escalate. Not only that, but you can patch a fleet, not a site, but a fleet. Manage firmware and security updates across hundreds of locations without disrupting business operations. That is critical. Zero touch, zero friction provisioning, as we hinted at, for faster, consistent, and more predictable and scalable rollouts, all the way from that gas station to a grocery store. This is how you manage the complexity that comes with scale, by designing those tools that anticipate the problems and automate the fixes before human intervention is even needed. Now, this is built for the front line, not just the back office. So you can streamline the complex environments into one manageable platform that scales with your business. The applications and workloads are definitely at the heart of these operations. But you also have to remember, aligning the right hardware is equally as important, because hardware size matters. So with this in mind, let's talk physical realities. Not all edge environments are built the same. Some have racks, some have a closet, some have a shelf next to an ice machine, or as we've recently seen in some of our recent conversations, next to a fryer. Systems must fit in tight spaces, adapt to a variety of physical environments, and be right sized for the workload. All this without wasting power, space, and most importantly in these cases, budget. So that's why right sizing hardware matters. Compact devices that are out there today reduce power, reduce cooling, and the space requirements all at the same time. This further adds to the overall TCO and the value proposition that provides. So choosing the right form factor for the workloads should be considerate of the performance requirements and the growth potential that's coming down the pipe. Just don't over-provision for over-provisioning's sake. That happens so much today. Scale the compute to fit the use case, considering the performance, growth, and the workload consolidation potentials. Don't just think of it as a siloed piece of hardware. Combine those workloads. Take advantage of what we can throw out there with all of these new innovations. A good strategy in the edge isn't just about the compute performance. It's about the environmental fit, the flexibility, and the adaptability. So all of that being said very quickly, what is next? We've talked through the key drivers that are reshaping Edge IT, the core principles of a modern Edge platform, and how unifying that infrastructure and network strategy can unlock a new era of scale and resilience. But next, We'll dive into how this all comes together with the networking, mass deployment, and security aspects. So for that, I'm going to hand things off to Jason to take us into that next chapter of smarter edge networking solutions. Jason?
Thanks, Mike. That was terrific, and really appreciate those insights into just exactly what's going on today with edge computing and how you guys are helping to evolve the environments at the edge. It's really incredible what's happening now within these distributed enterprise locations that only a few years ago was not possible or was much harder or more expensive to deliver. So it's really exciting to see how that's evolving. Whether it's cloud or whether you're using edge computing, a distributed enterprise ultimately relies on a resilient network in order to deliver value and create outcomes. The network is ultimately the foundation of the edge because as a distributed enterprise, everything ultimately flows, whether it's cloud or edge, compute over the network. And so without a reliable and scalable network, the challenges of delivering value to customers and to other stakeholders is it becomes virtually impossible. So we have taken many of the same approaches that Scale has regarding how to deploy at the edge, how to ensure the IT resources are efficiently used, et cetera. So Simon Gamble, one of our co-founders and one of the principals in the business, has been at this edge compute and edge networking game for over 20 years now. And we are fortunate to have tens of thousands of locations that we support as a company. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to deliver a lot of that value to distributed enterprise customers. So Simon, if you'd like to share a little bit more about how our technology works and also what the demands of the distributed enterprise are on networking, love to hear about it.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everybody, for coming to listen to us today. The theme here, I think, is allowing a small group of people that are managing the technology at a distributed enterprise to be able to do amazing things, to enhance their business, to satisfy the needs of the stakeholders within their organizations, and hopefully delight their customers or the other businesses that they are selling their products and services to. Scale and Mako have approached IT in a very similar manner. We're all about allowing less resource to deliver more technology and more functionality by treating the edge very similar to how a lot of people treat the cloud. My goal today is to show you how network can be deployed alongside edge, maybe even a little ahead of edge to prepare for edge compute to go into a location based on our experiences in the field. As Jason mentioned, we've deployed to tens of thousands of locations around the world. Our technology is designed specifically for distributed enterprises. So I wanted to share some of our experiences and tips to you without making this a sales pitch. Hopefully you'll benefit from some of our mistakes and some of our learnings and can more efficiently deploy technologies into your organization. Deploying networks to distributed enterprises comes with a whole lot of distributed problems. The obvious one is potentially time consuming to deploy networks when you may be deploying them to hundreds, if not thousands, of small locations. It's much easier to deploy a network to one centralized location or data center. It's much more complex to deploy a network and edge to hundreds or thousands of smaller locations. They're obviously also very challenging to manage. As Mike outlined, those locations typically use technology heavily, but have almost no technical resource on them at all. And there's multiple different stakeholders wanting to use the network for different purposes. Ultimately, it's normally the brand or the parent company's decision to deploy a distributed network across their locations, but there's multiple stakeholders using that network, often with very different reasons for wanting to use that network. It's important also that control is shared to get buy-in from all the folks that are using the network. Sometimes it's different folks paying for the network than the folks wanting it to be deployed. And so adding value by sharing visibility and control is really, really important. Security is an endless problem or concern that's made all the more difficult when the network is spread out and distributed and control is shared as well. So we'll share some tips and ideas about how we make all of these problems simpler and easier to manage, if not go away in some circumstances. So we've deployed a lot of locations. For one customer, we deployed 1,000 locations in one night. So we know how to do deployments of networks and have made a lot of mistakes on the way that hopefully you can benefit from. Our strong recommendation when building a distributed network is start in the lab. Lots and lots of customers of ours have tried to bypass the lab, sometimes with disastrous results. Work out what your networks are going to look like and pre-configure your devices before they get deployed out to a customer location. Templating configurations may seem obvious, but you need to drastically reduce or boil down the number of different templates that you have across sites. If you're a retailer, maybe consider having sites with different configurations based on the point of sale system that each site has. If you allow your locations to have 3 different point of sale systems or choose from 3 different point of sale systems, consider having only 3 different network setups based on those point of sale systems. Maybe you're not a retailer and you have technologies that are spread across your sites and you're able to build network templates based on those. So reduce the number of templates, but use templates. Don't configure each site individually. It's important to minimize setup variations. You do that by minimizing the types of networks you have, but being able to stack templates or to add out of band or unusual network setups in a templated manner is going to be really important. Also, don't rely on installers or sites to call the IT group and say, my site's up and running. Use self-alerting technology and devices that can report into a cloud management platform and tell you when they're ready to go. And then you can proactively work on the sites that are having problems during deployment. Deploy network technology that has multiple connectivity paths, particularly if you're deploying an edge network. That edge network needs to connect the site that it's being deployed in to the internet, typically the internet, sometimes a private network, more commonly these days the internet. Use devices that have multiple connectivity paths. By that we mean maybe they can connect via a cable broadband connection and also a cellular connection. That cellular might ultimately be used for backup, but when it's being deployed, it might be used as primary for a period of time because the broadband connection isn't ready or it was misconfigured based on incorrect information provided by the ISP. So give yourself the best chance of gear coming online and being able to be remotely controlled by deploying devices that have different ways of connecting to the internet. And offer a zero-touch option. If you're a franchise-based business, your dealers may want to install things themselves. We all know nothing is truly zero-touch. It has to be put in a carton and loaded onto a truck and sent out to a customer. But if you're using technology that can be delivered pre-configured and it's already templated and set up for the sites that it's going into, provide an option for your dealers to plug it in themselves. They know the building and the physical locations of where the equipment is going better than you do. Also acknowledge that some of these locations may not have a secure server room or a locked network rack. We see plenty of customer locations where the networking equipment is under a counter. So expect that and use technology that's able to go into those locations without reducing your security. I really believe that a centralized management system is your secret weapon. Clearly, Mako is very heavily focused on centralized management, as is Scale. We're both deploying heavily into distributed enterprises. And we both believe that using technology that has centralized management allows the IT folks at head office, or maybe even spread across the country, a better chance of being able to do not only a solid, fast deployment, but also being able to manage exceptions and deliver high quality support when the solution is in a business as usual situation. The centralized management system should be the source of network truth, not necessarily a customer calling in saying the internet's broken or customers can't use credit cards. The central management system should provide your IT team with the networking information that you need, not customers and not store managers that aren't IT literate. They may be able to point you in the right direction, but use cloud management for the network truth. Also importantly for a distributed network, it typically has distributed IT and support. As a brand or a parent company, you may have your own IT people and your own support people, but if the network and the edge compute equipment is going out to your distributed environment, they may have their own IT companies that they use. They may have their own support organizations that they use. We see plenty of large deployments being done by global brands to their franchisees, and some of their franchisees are public companies in their own right. They have their own IT teams, and they want to be able to see and understand what's going on. A cloud management system that allows you to distribute control and support throughout your organization. It also simplifies access control. Access control really is part of security, but if you're able to only manage access control to the network configuration from a central management system, you don't have to worry about access control on the probably thousands of devices that make up your distributed network. So centralized management enhances security and makes it easy for you to decide who can do what with the gear that's out at your locations. It'll also help significantly with process and change control. It's really important that help desks and IT groups don't just go and make changes willy-nilly when a customer calls them or when they want to see what happens with a site if they change something. A centralized management system with built-in change control is really important. You can force changes to go through an independent third party or to a senior management group that can double check whether that change should be being made and click a button to allow it out there. You may want to only have process and change control for certain areas of the network, and systems that allow that can streamline things as well. Centralized management system for your network allows a software-defined network. This allows you to change, scale, and ensure your network grows with your business without having to do any on-site visits. Centralized security management is sure easier than distributed security management. Being able to control hundreds or thousands of locations as if they were one is a key feature of a proper centralized management system. And that really leads into some security best practices. Security is something that is absolute front of mind for both Scale and Mako. You can deploy some great functionality out to your organization, and if a bad actor breaches it and starts causing problems, it is just going to be a massive headache for you. Huge amount of resource needs to be soaked up to fix security breaches, not to say anything about the bad press. Keep a disciplined approach when deploying networks. Really plan things out before rolling them out. It sounds obvious, but so many customers don't take a proper disciplined approach to what's going on and really do a fire and see what goes on. Processes, procedures, they're really, really important. Build them into the platforms that you're deploying and you're going to massively reduce problems. Don't forget firmware updates. They're hugely important to security. They're obviously important for getting new features and functions and bug fixes out there to your estate, but make sure that the solution you pick has firmware updates firmly considered as part of it. You need to consider and be able to control when firmware updates happen to your locations. If you're a 24/7 operation, you're going to have to think very carefully about when firmware updates can happen and how long they can disrupt a location for. You're probably going to want to be able to determine some blackout dates that are absolutely unacceptable for firmware updates to take place in your environment. So really think carefully about firmware updates and how they're going to happen. You are going to get them. Most systems are probably going to do at minimum quarterly firmware updates for you for bug fixes and things. Some systems will do monthly feature releases and things like that. We recommend building firmware update pools and get firmware automatically sent to your lab devices, your lab rigs, make sure they work properly, and then release them out to the estate. We also recommend not just doing a massive one-hit firmware update to all of your locations. Start small with firmware updates. Start with maybe 10 sites one night, then the second night build it to 20, third night build it to 40. That way, if there's an unexpected issue caused by the firmware updates, it hasn't impacted your entire estate. Think really carefully about access rights and who has the ability to control things. Build in systems that allow you to really easily remove access when employees leave your business, but also think really carefully about giving access to your dealers or franchisees. It's really important for them to share in the success of this technology and get the benefits from it. So access rights don't have to be as simple as we're giving access to the 3 IT guys at the top of the pyramid. All sorts of people should have access to your technology, but the right amount of access, and also make it very quickly to remove access when people leave the business. Also consider the security standards that your stores or your distributed networks need to adhere to. If you're retail and accepting credit cards, PCI DSS is going to be really important. There are lots and lots of other security standards that are going to apply to different types of businesses. Work out what you need, what standards are important to you going forward, and make sure the vendors that you use, that it's important to them too. And a lot of vendors will have standards compliance built into their deployments or built into their technology, and they can really reduce the burden on you and make it easier to deliver amazing technology to your business without undue risk. We strongly believe that the network, just like the edge compute, must be able to be used by all stakeholders, often for their own purposes that might vary or differ from why you're deploying a new network or a new technology. When deploying a distributed network, it's really important to add value to all parties, because if you're franchised or dealer-based, you need the dealers or the franchisees to buy into this. They're not going to buy into a massive disruption to their environment to get a box with some flashing lights on it that does nothing for them but causes them headaches, particularly during the install process, changes the way they get support. They need to see value in what's going on. We believe you should give them some visibility and potentially even control into any network that's being deployed to them. Oftentimes, franchisees or dealers are being asked to pay for network. There may be a network access fee you charge them each month, or you may just have the network or edge vendor bill the stores directly. They need to see value in it, and being able to deploy a network that can be segmented into what the brand wants and then leave dealers or franchisees free to use the remainder of the technology for their own purposes can offer massive cost savings for them. The amount of franchise businesses that we deploy into where we see the networking technology that the brand has mandated sitting right next to a second stack of network technology that the dealer needs to do their business, it's just countless the number of times we've seen that. So being able to use technology for multiple purposes offers big cost savings to dealers. It's a much more efficient use of resources. You don't need 2 pieces of equipment to do 1 piece of equipment's job, and offers significant value to everybody. These dealers can stop paying for additional equipment and having to manage it themselves if you offer a solution to them that does what you want and helps them get what they want out of the network as well. This slide is really meant to get people thinking about who might need access to a distributed network. Oftentimes, if you're deploying a network, you're really thinking about how do I get this network that I want out to my distributed locations, and then we'll look after it from there. But so often that's not the case. The parent or the brand will want networks for their own purposes. The franchisee may want them for their own as well, and they might have a lot of equipment that you're not even thinking of that needs to go on the network. We're really experienced in a lot of retail locations, but particularly in oil and gas. And a brand is focusing on the dispensers, the point of sale systems, but they often forget that the franchisee or the dealer also has maybe a car wash. Maybe they have a CCTV system that's important to them. Maybe they have connected coffee machines and things. So really think about all of the devices that are going to be on a network over and above what's important to you if you're deploying to franchisees or dealers. Also think about help desks. There's a plural here on help desks because more often than not in big distributed networks, there's all sorts of help desks going on. You've got your own help desk. There might be a separate point of sale help desk from the point of sale vendor that may benefit from having some visibility into network to help them solve their problems. If your franchisees are big organizations with their own help desks and their own IT groups, they're going to want to have access as well. And there's many third-party service providers that could benefit from some visibility and potentially even some control into the network deployment. Folks that are looking after the point of sale systems is obvious, but folks that are delivering consumer packaged goods and restocking stores, maybe delivering fuel to underground fuel tanks, maybe if you're doing airport lounges, you've got people that need to deliver coffee and automatically make sure that bathrooms are kept cleaned. So much efficiency can be derived from giving network visibility and control with the right amount of security around it to all these types of people that need to use the network. Most of all, it's going to reduce the support burden on you. People don't have to call you to see what's going on or to request changes be made. So, in summary, we believe networks are the foundation for all edge technology, and frankly, for all technologies being deployed into distributed enterprises today. Without a solid networking foundation, you run a real risk of other deployments falling over, not being able to be deployed at all, or being super unreliable. So really consider the edge network as part of as the base that's needed for everything else to be built upon. And a network's really only as good as its weakest link. So everything about it matters. The deployment matters. If the deployment goes bad, then everybody in the delivery chain has a bad taste in their mouth about it. It costs more money. It takes more time. Reliability is obviously really important. Think about multiple paths, not only for the business's usual phase, but for the deployment phase. Make the deployment easier by having multiple ways for a store or an office to get connected. Really think about the supportability. We think that there's usually multiple support paths for a distributed site. They're calling different people for support of the network, support of point of sale, support for equipment, support often for deliveries and the technology that delivery companies are using to get product or devices into a location. So if everyone's having to call you to find out what's going on or to make little minute changes or to get status reports, it's a huge burden. So think about sharing supportability. So you've got a distributed network. Think about creating a network that's able to give distributed control and visibility as well. Never forget security. If you don't build a network or a solution with security in mind, it can bite. There's just so many bad stories out there. Not only is it bad from PR, it costs a lot of money to resolve a security breach. So never forget about security. But obviously, if it's not offering value and it's not an efficient use of your resources, it's probably not a win either. And by value, we don't just mean the cost of the overall solution, but the value it offers to everybody in the delivery chain. So hopefully that's given you some insight based on many years of our experience in deploying networks to distributed enterprises. We really do think that the edge is the key for the future of distributed networks, and the edge and the edge compute is just as important as the edge network. Together, Scale and Mako have deployed some amazing technologies to all sorts of businesses, from quick serve restaurants to petroleum to distributed office locations, mortgage companies, you name it. If you're looking to modernize your IT environment, we can make it a lot simpler than you may think. We can help future-proof your sites, minimize risk by doing things properly and never forgetting about security and compliance. Deployment is often a major concern for people. We know how to deploy things faster, but it comes from doing your homework first. A lot of people forget about support, or really only think about support in a small way. For a lot of people using a distributed edge network or edge compute environment, the help desk is the only part of your environment or your organization or ours they'll ever talk to. And so giving them a first-class experience on the first call, solving their problems quickly, is really, really important. And everybody is being asked today to do more with less, and that's really what Scale and Mako is all about, helping small teams deliver amazing technologies into big distributed environments. So that's all I've got to share with you today. I know hopefully you've benefited from Mike and Jason's experiences. We'd love to open the floor to questions if anybody has any, and see if you've got anything you'd like to discuss with us today, or any other learnings we can share with you.
Simon, it does look like we have a couple in there. I think they might be more focused on your side of the fence. Let me cherry pick a couple of these and read them off to you. From the security standpoint, giving the dealers access to the network management, doesn't that open up a massive security hole?
Yeah, it can, if you don't do it properly. So, as mentioned multiple times, we believe dealers should have access to some network visibility and control, and it's important to do it in the right way. We do it by having no localized management on any of our edge devices, and all of the interaction with the edge devices and visibility of the network takes place in the cloud, in our central management system. It's designed so that if you're deploying a network to an estate, you can choose what's important to a brand and template aspects of a network that a dealer can't change. For example, if you're a gas station, you probably care about if you're a fuel brand deploying to gas stations, you care about the point of sale system, the outdoor dispenser network, and where they connect to process credit cards and loyalty, for example. So most brands that would deploy with us would lock those networks down so that a dealer can see how they're configured to an extent, but can't make any changes to them. But then there's other areas of the network that the brand really doesn't care too much about. They might want to have some influence in it, but things like back office networks, CCTV networks, if we're sticking to petroleum, car wash networks, the brand may decide, okay, a dealer can build these networks and they can have their own configuration about them. They can do their own configurations for themselves. That lets a brand focus on what's important to them, build the network appropriately, but allow the dealers to be able to build their own networks using aspects of the technology that are unused or undefined by the brand. So no, it doesn't open a security hole if it's done properly.
Nice. Now this one kind of tags on both of our sides of it, and I'll chime in here as well. But it's a loaded question because we both talked about thousands of sites and those types of deployments. Now, we know that can be hugely disruptive from a standpoint of migrating or just installing and changing things out. In your experience, what has been the timing for such a deployment? Say 1,000 sites.
That's a how long is a piece of string question.
One of those loaded questions.
The fastest we've deployed 1,000 sites is in one evening. That was because we had to, and the customer had to. They'd bought another business, wanted to migrate to our technology, and weren't allowed access to the stores. This was a retail customer. They weren't allowed access to the stores until midnight on the day that they took ownership of the business. So they wanted everything done then, and we were able to do it by putting in a lot of hard work and project management ahead of time. More typical for a larger organization deploying to 1,000 sites is they would typically allow anywhere from a 3 to 6 month window for that to happen. So usually with our technology, and if we've got enough time ahead of a deployment, we can match whatever deployment schedule that a customer wants.
Yeah, and on this side of it, it's a similar conversation. One big differentiating factor, of course, is data, right? Your side of it doesn't necessarily deal with amounts of data and moving files and operating systems and everything across between maybe new hypervisors or different hypervisors and those combinations. But with the tools that we have in place similar to yours, the cloud-facing management, we bring Ansible tools to the table, orchestration tools, automation, and those things. You're able to fast track those migration efforts or even those greenfield efforts of getting things installed from a infrastructure standpoint that lives on that shared networking components that you guys match up so well with what we do. And I've seen similar aspects in our larger deployments that we can do 3, 6, 9 months and get hundreds up to thousands of locations deployed by the proper planning. And I think that's the key in these large deployments. Yeah, you can have the tools, but if you don't plan how to use those tools and test using those tools before you start those deployments, it's gonna jump up and bite you. It really takes the timing and the efforts of all those pieces and the experience to help align those pieces. So I'm in total agreement with you there. It can be done quickly if it has to be. You throw the people, you throw the resources at it, but in reality, you're stretching that out over a time period to do it right. Very good. Well, I think with that then, since I'm not seeing any other questions populate, I think we can give some people time back in their day. Take it from here, go forward, find your edge, modernize your edge. Scale Computing and Mako Networks are here to help in those regards. We both have the capacities on this side of the world, whether it be fleet manager, whether it be the small footprints that I talked about earlier, data center side, all these things inclusive of both sides of the equation, from the Scale Computing side and the Mako Network side, are here to make it easier, to make it more efficient, and to simplify that deployment and that ongoing management cycle. So from my side, I'll say thank you, Simon. Jason, any closing statements?
Thank you. Really appreciate people taking time out of their day to listen to us.
I would agree. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.